Blew something.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the shop. Welcome back to the channel. This is part 2 of getting Linda ready for the Freedom Factory in Bradenton and we leave in 3 days. And here is Linda, still torn completely apart. I'm making this video in response to the questions and comments regarding the starter. There were some of you out there that were asking questions on, why did we have to go to such an extreme to change a starter? Or is there any other way we could have done this rather than doing it this way? So on and so forth. So what I wanted to do was show you the process of the starter and why we went the route we did to, such an extreme, if you will. Please forgive the echo in here. It is a wintry, snowy, nasty mess outside. I have the heat on and the door shut, so we're gonna have a little bit of an echo. But anyway, this is Busted Radio Garage. Let's get after it. All right, guys, first thing I'll do is I'll get under the car and show you exactly where the starter is and why this was such a hassle. Now, keep in mind, I've already changed the starter, so, we're not gonna see that portion of it. To be honest with you, I didn't record that part because after about 5 minutes in, Linda and I had to have a chat, if you will, and I like to keep my channel family friendly, and it probably wasn't the best thing to have the camera going at that time. But any of you know a late 60s, early 70s starter for one of these Mopars is about the size of a 2-liter pop bottle. They are enormous, and it was completely encased in these headers. All right, let me just get you down here and show you what we got going on. So in the last video, you guys seen where the starter wasn't engaging, wasn't working. So I knew right off the bat I was gonna have to remove the headers or do some header work to get that starter out. So first things first was to remove the exhaust altogether. So I went ahead and removed the exhaust portion from the collector portion. And right here, even with this mini spool starter, I'm gonna try to get you where you can see it, is encased completely within the headers. I mean, this is the mini spool and you see how tight it is. The factory starter was literally twice this size and I put it in for core. So I wish I would have shot this video before then, but I just explained to you the reason I didn't. Now, I'm sure some of you are like, well, why didn't you drop it out the bottom, Mills? So here is the bottom side, and I'm gonna try to do this without my camera flipping all goofy. So here's the transmission, oil pan, engine block, and then here's the headers, and there's the starter. So there was no coming straight down out of here. There was no going back up to get it out, and there was no coming through the side to get it out because you have the headers, torsion bars, transmission, engine block, and everything, and the starter is completely encased within everything. Okay, so that is the bottom, plus I had all of the linkage for the transmission and all of that in the way as well. So now I'll move you up top and show you what all we had to take apart there. Let me get you up here. Okay, now the top of the engine, as you can see, I've started putting some of this back together, but it's just sitting there, nothing's bolted in. So we knew we were gonna have to drop the back of the headers down and try to pull them towards the front of the car to get some room to get the starter out. So in order to do that, in order to come up, I had to remove the valve covers because the headers obviously were hitting the valve covers when we came up. So once we disconnected the collector from the exhaust and removed all of the header bolts, or all of the header bolts, we started to try to angle the headers up, but these are essentially made to fit headers around the steering box, because this was originally a manual steering car. It's a power steering car now. So this has been form fitted and made to fit in Linda. The headers are actually, like I said, beat or form fitted around that box. So as we come up, of course, the steering box was in the way. So essentially what we needed to do is, before we could go up, we had to come forward. So when we unhooked the header bolts to come forward, the headers were hitting the spark plugs. So then we took the valve cover off, pulled the spark plugs, and then the oil tube, which I've got put back in already, was in the way. So we had to pull the oil tube to get some type of movement out of the headers. Then you go back to the steering box, was now in the way still. So with some finagling and prying, we were finally able to get some movement out of these headers up and forward, enough to just yank, beat, pull, again, have a serious conversation with Linda, and we was able to get the old starter out. So we got it removed, fiddle farted around, and was able to get this mini spool starter put back in there, which is half the size, and believe it or not, it was even a nightmare to get back in there. I mean, it was unbelievable. So, with my mitts being so big, to be able to finagle around to get these wires put back in and get all that done, we had to take the tire and stuff off Linda, the front tire. And there's actually an access hole right here in the fender well to be able to reach the wires, but they are even then still way back in there, encased in the headers. So my wife, who is down here every single day when I'm down here, fellas, every single day, that little cart there that we have to work on vehicles is where my wife sits, who's actually on her way down here now. And there's times she'll sit there for hours on end just to be here to hand me a screwdriver, or just to be here to hand me a wrench, or just to be here to offer any type of help. So none of this I could really do without her, because obviously we're not doing any of this on a lift. It's all on the ground, so I'm under the car fiddling around trying to get stuff done, and I need something up there. She's here to hand me that tool, or hand me that, or do whatever. And fortunately, with her hands being so small, she was able to assist with hooking up the wires, getting the bolts out, doing whatever. So special thanks to my wife. I've had a lot of guys comment that, you know, how amazing that is to have a wife who supports you 100% in the automotive portion of it, right? But yeah, I couldn't have done this job at all without her. There's just no way, because she's up here yanking and jerking and pulling around on these, and I'm down there underneath there jerking and screaming at that starter to get it out. But fortunately, we've got the starter back in. I've yet to test it. We're going to do that with you people, just like we did last week. So what I'm going to do is get all of this put back together. And I mean, my shop is just, it's just destroyed right now. But I've got to get the headers bolted back in. I've got to tie in the collector tube back to the exhaust, get all that done, get everything insulated the best I can, get the plugs put back in, get the valve cover put back on, get all the wires and everything put back in here, battery. I mean, I got to put all this back together, and then we got to get going. I still have to mount my drag radials for the track. I still have to mount my burnout tires. I still have to get all the tools packed, all the gear packed, I mean, we are literally down to the wire, and unfortunately, I'm not the only one in this mess. I mean, this is, I can't tell you, there's probably a dozen guys around the country right now doing exactly what I'm doing, is just down to tooth and nail, son, to get everything put back together and get out of here. Unfortunately for us, and I'm not sure the location of everybody, but we're going to be traveling through snow on the way down there with her big fat rear end on a trailer. behind my truck. So hopefully we can get as far south as quick as we can out of this snow and get on the good roads. Unfortunately, on the way back, that snow is gonna be waiting on us. So anyway, so that kind of gives everybody like a brief description of why I went this route. I know I had quite a few of you questioning like, you know, why did I go to such extreme? But, you know, there was no choice. I mean, I had to do what I had to do to get that thing out of there. So good news in, it's back in. I hope it works. Let's get all this put back together. Let's get after it. Hang tight. All right, guys, it's been about an hour or so since the last time I checked in with you. But everything is hooked back up. Headers, spark plug wires, insulators, battery, starter, collector tube to the exhaust. Everything is good to go here. So, just like a while ago, I'm not fooling around with the editing part of it or whatever. We're gonna try to do this legit. So I'm gonna set you up on the stand and we're gonna try to crack her off and see what happens. So, you know, we're out of time. So let's find out what happens. If I can get this thing to prop up on here. If anybody ever wanted a legit cold start, you're about to get one. If she'll start. Well, we'll do it the old-fashioned way. So I'm gonna have to figure this out. May just be a little bit on the headers from where we were tinkering around with it and had the valve cover gaskets off. But I'm gonna get into this and I'll get back with you in a minute. I gotta get, you know, all of this cleaned up, get the tire put back on, and I still have to fix the linkage yet to get it ready to go. But I'll touch back with you here in a little bit. Get warm and see what happens. Look for any leaks. You know the deal. Keep an eye on that and see if it's just residual oil. I'll get back with y'all in a minute.
Lose something.
Transmission. Yep. All right, guys, another interesting development. Got the car running, want to put it in gear, get it ready for a test burnout, and we think we blew the transmission. It's already been cleaned up, but we dumped every bit of transmission fluid out of the car onto the ground. So gonna pull the pan, see what all happened. I'm working with our boys over at Dutch Guy's Garage to help us out and seeing if we can get this figured out. But it looks to me like Linda is not wanting to go to Florida. So we'll keep going. I'll get back with you in a minute. All right, guys, here we are now after the big explosion you just seen a second ago where my transmission just let loose. Hopefully it was just a pump or something ignorant. I'm not really for sure, but I got under the car, got to looking around. Again, I'm talking with my boy over there, Dutch Guy's Garage, Dustin. He's kind of helped me out from there in Michigan, but got under here. And I'm not sure how much of this you're gonna be able to see, but my linkage cable was actually melted into the loom, and that is what she looks like. I don't know how much of that you can see, but that is what's left of my B&M shifting cable. So, like I said, we gotta leave in a couple days, so now I need to see if I can get a new shifter cable and all that overnighted from B&M, and see if I can get a 727 rebuilt in 2 days. Had to get back off one of the cars. So, if I can't somehow get this thing to where it's gonna run, Bradenton is done for us. We're not gonna be going. So, we need to see if we can get the 727 redone. I need to see if I can get some parts overnighted here from B&M and get this fixed. If not, Linda will be waiting until April, Cleetus and Cars, when they have it again. So 2023 or 2022 will be done for us. So we're gonna make some calls, see what we can do, reach out to everybody we can, and see if we can get this done. So hang tight. I'll update you guys here shortly on this video. And if we're done, we're done. If we're not, we're not. So let's just see what we can do. All right, you've seen the cable. So here is my pan from the transmission, and this is all the exploded mess within my trans pan. Not good. All right, guys, it's a little bit later in the day. I'm on your TV looking like a pumpkin right now, but it's starting to get a little chilly. So anyway, where we are at right now is we're trying to diagnose the transmission issue. Not 100% sure it's blown or not, but we're kind of working on that, but working back to another issue, which is the shifter, the shifting issues. And we found the problem for that. So went ahead and gutted the center console, got all this out, got our B&M shifter and all this out of the way. So I'll take you over here to the cable. And this was definitely the issue for sure. So here's the cable, and here is the problem. So this is just absolutely roached. So working with B&M right now to get me a cable overnighted here for this for now. I'm talking with a transmission shop actually on my phone, messaging right now, as far as seeing if they could dump this, rebuild it, put it back in 1 day. So that's what we're working on right at the moment. Right now I'm gonna take off. I'm gonna head up to my parts store. I'm gonna get some transmission fluid, a new screen, and we're gonna try to see if hopefully all of that mess come out the vent of the transmission or something of that nature, or if we just completely shredded the transmission itself or the torque converter. So it's a mad rush around here, as you can imagine. We are trying to get out of here, and I do not want to miss this show. But if we got to miss it, we got to miss it. But I'm going to fight tooth and nail all the way up till we got to get out of here. So we're working on this with B&M. We're working on that with the transmission shop. I don't want to name them yet. We'll try to do that in a later video, help them out. But I'm going to make sure that we can work with them first. And right now we're gonna head up and get some parts and see what we can do. If we can get this going, we're set. We're still gonna make it to Florida. If we can't get a transmission done, or at least try to get, at the end of the day, all I need is second gear for 2 minutes. I don't want to miss the drag portion of it. I really don't. I don't want to miss a lot of things, but at the end of the day, that's all I truly need. So we're going to see what we can do. Hang tight. I'll be back with you. I'm going to try to involve you guys in every bit of this, and we'll go from there. So I'll touch back with you here shortly. All right, guys, I'm back with you. It's been a couple hours, to be honest with you. I'll show you what we got going on and what we're going to do. So we got, oh, excuse me. Let me get you back under here. Okay, so went through the transmission while it's still attached to the car. Pulled the screen. It didn't look that bad. We had a little bit of residue. It wasn't aluminum, so we don't believe that anything in here has been shredded too awful bad. Pulled the inspection plate. Everything up in here, as far as the torque converter and everything, looks okay. So we don't believe the case has been damaged. So the plan for now is we went ahead and put the new screen on. We're gonna go ahead and put the pan back in with the new gasket, fill it back up with transmission fluid, start the car and see what happens. If it doesn't come gushing out anywhere, then we're gonna go from there. The next step would be to jack the rear end of Linda up, because we don't have a shifter cable in here now. It won't be here in the morning till 7. Jack the rear end of Linda up, put her on stands, start the car, obviously if it runs okay, without leaking, and then I'm gonna manually shift the car from under here. Now Linda will be up on stands, so don't freak out. The plan is not to get run over. And see if the transmission will obviously go from park, reverse, neutral, drive, okay? If it'll do that without leaking or without smoking or just exploding everywhere, the new cable gets here tomorrow, I'll install the new shifter cable, and we'll take it up the road and see if this was just a fluke deal because she's been sitting here for a month. Not entirely sure. If it just leaks and explodes and it just goes south in a hurry, we will attack it at that point, see where we go from there. All I know is we've been down here about, I don't know, 10 hours today, buttoning this thing up, and Linda is fighting us every bit of the way. So that's where we're at. Give me a minute to get all of this put back together, get some fluid in here, and then I'll set you up, and whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. So we're gonna keep going for this drive for Bradenton and see if we can make it. So hang tight, we'll be back with you in a minute. All right, guys, after a valiant effort today, unfortunately it's gonna be we got everything put back together. Got a new transpan gasket, transpan cleaned, new shifter cable, new everything back the way it's supposed to be. And we got the car, got Linda up on stands, got in there, put it in, had it in park, checked it, reverse, neutral, back to reverse. The wheels move, transmission moves okay, but it's leaking right out where the torque converter is, up in the casing. So bad pump, bad seal, something has failed inside the transmission. So as of this second, there's nothing else more we can do, because again, I go to work every day. So I've reached out to a transmission shop. We're gonna see if we can get that pump or that seal fixed sometime Monday or Tuesday, because we've got to leave out of here Thursday morning at the latest. So there will be a part 3 to this now. So again, if you guys have hung out this long, I appreciate you hanging out with us. And we'll make a part 3 if needed. There's gonna be a part 3 one way or the other, because she's gonna get fixed. It's just whether or not we make it to Florida. So we'll catch you next time. I appreciate you watching. This has been Buster Radio Garage.